I still remember the exact words, the sting of betrayal cutting deeper than I ever imagined. "We appreciate the house, but Dorothy does not want you at Thanksgiving." My son's wife, my own blood, telling me I was unwelcome in my own family's home. I stood frozen, the letter trembling in my hands, my chest tightened, my mind spinning through every possible reaction. Should I cry? Should I explode? Or should I let the world see just how powerful an ignored mother-in-law could be? I knew one thing she was about to learn, that the person she underestimated most would come back harder than she ever expected. My name is Henry Carter, and I am 58 years old. I have lived long enough to recognize when respect is genuine and when it is only borrowed until someone thinks they no longer need you. I built my life around providing stability, not just for myself, but for my family. Every overtime shift, every missed vacation, every tired night was an investment in the people I loved. I believed that loyalty was returned when it was given honestly. That belief was shattered by a single message that arrived on my phone late one quiet Tuesday evening. I remember staring at the screen as if the words might rearrange themselves into something kinder. They did not. "We appreciate the house, but Dorothy does not want you at Thanksgiving." My pulse thudded in my ears. For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood. Then I read it again and again. The silence in my living room felt heavy, like the air itself had turned against me. Something about the calm way it was written made it hurt even more. It was not anger. It was not hesitation. It was final. What I did not know then was that this message was only the beginning. I have one son, David. He is 32, hardworking, gentle in ways I sometimes wish he was not. He married Dorothy 2 years ago. At first, she seemed charming, the kind of woman who could light up a room with her smile and make people believe she was warm and sincere. I wanted to like her. I tried to like her, but there was always something calculated behind her politeness, something that felt rehearsed rather than natural. Dorothy is 29, ambitious, and deeply aware of the power she holds in social situations. She speaks softly but carries her words like blades, precise and well-aimed. When she looks at you, it feels like she is measuring what you are worth to her future. I noticed it early on, the subtle way she dismissed my stories, the way her smile tightened whenever David and I shared a laugh, small signs easy to ignore. Until they were not small anymore. Thanksgiving has always been sacred to me. It was the one day of the year where time slowed down, where the house filled with warmth and the noise of family replaced the noise of the outside world. I hosted it every year. The table was mine, the traditions were mine, the memories were mine. I thought those things mattered. I thought I mattered. When that text arrived, it felt like I had been quietly erased. No discussion, no explanation, just exclusion. And not from strangers, but from my own family. I stood up from the couch and walked into the kitchen, touching the edge of the counter as if grounding myself in something solid. My hands were shaking, but my face felt numb. I asked myself if this was really happening. I asked myself what I had done to deserve this. And most of all, I asked myself why Dorothy felt entitled to decide where I belonged. What she did not realize was that she had just challenged the one thing I had never surrendered: control over my own home and my own dignity. David had not sent the message himself. That part hurt almost as much as the words. It meant he had allowed her to speak for him. It meant he had chosen silence over standing up for his father. That silence was louder than any insult. I could already feel something changing inside me. It was not rage. It was clarity. The kind that comes when you finally understand the rules of the game you have been forced into. Because if Dorothy thought she could remove me from my own family without consequence, she had made a mistake that would follow her far longer than a holiday dinner. I replayed every interaction we had ever had, every forced smile, every polite dismissal. Every moment I chose peace instead of confrontation. Those choices had taught her that I was weak, and people like Dorothy mistake patience for permission. What she did not know was that patience can become something far more dangerous when it finally runs out. That night, I did not sleep. I sat in my chair, staring into the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the clock. Each sound felt like a countdown. Each minute sharpened my thoughts, because Thanksgiving was coming. And it was no longer just about dinner. If you have ever been dismissed, disrespected, or told you did not belong, hit that like button and subscribe. This is a story about the kind of revenge that makes you sit back, breathe, and realize justice can be served in the most unexpected ways. The days after that message felt like walking through a storm with no shelter. Dorothy did not stop at excluding me from Thanksgiving. Every interaction became a reminder that she wanted to erase me from my own family's life. She called under the guise of civility, but her words were sharp, measured, and cold. "I just think it is better if you take a break this year, Henry," she said, her tone soft, almost sympathetic. But her eyes betrayed the truth. They were triumphant, gleaming with satisfaction at my discomfort. She began to control the small things first. David would mention family plans, and she would interject, steering the conversation to exclude me. Invitations I used to receive were now filtered through her judgment. The house I had maintained, the traditions I had nurtured, suddenly felt like someone else's property. Every day I felt smaller, reduced to a shadow in my own life. Then came the subtle insults. Not overt, but the kind that cut deeper than words could explain. "You really should not overexert yourself with all that cooking," she said, when I offered to help with David's new apartment renovations. I smiled politely, but inside a fire was kindling. She thought she was clever, but every microaggression only fueled the storm inside me. Her control extended beyond words. She would arrive unexpectedly, dropping by David's office under some pretext, making sure I was never included. I caught her more than once, sneaking through the house, rearranging things, placing small barriers that made me feel unwelcome. I began noticing the way she interacted with my grandchildren, encouraging them to exclude me, subtly undermining the bond I had built over years. I tried to reason with David, my voice calm but firm. "I do not understand why she is doing this." "Why do you let her?" I asked one evening, frustration tight in my chest. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Dad, I do not want to fight. It is better if we just let her handle this." Those words hit harder than any insult Dorothy could muster. He had chosen silence over loyalty. He had ceded his voice to her control. The tension grew like a weight pressing on my chest. Every text, every phone call, every casual remark was now a battlefield. Dorothy's influence was spreading, infecting conversations, visits, even casual moments at the grocery store with whispers of exclusion. I felt the walls closing in, my home no longer a sanctuary, my family no longer a safe space. One afternoon, I received a message from Dorothy, carefully casual, almost innocuous. "I hope you understand, Henry. It is better this way." I read it slowly, savoring the precision of her cruelty. She wanted me to crumble. She wanted me to beg for my place. But something inside me had shifted. I began to observe her every move. The way she entered rooms with confidence, the way she smiled while plotting the smallest victories. Every gesture was deliberate, calculated, and I realized something crucial. Her arrogance was her weakness. She believed she could control everything, manipulate everyone, and no one would challenge her. I started to catalog every slight, every exclusion, every insult. Each one became a data point, a piece of the puzzle I would eventually use against her. The patience that had once been a virtue now became ammunition. Every day that passed added to the anticipation a slow-burning fuse. And then came the perfect opportunity, the chance I had been waiting for, though I did not yet know exactly how it would unfold. Dorothy had underestimated one thing. I was not finished. I had learned to watch, to wait, and to plan. And when the moment arrived, she would not see it coming, because controlling a house does not mean controlling the owner. And she was about to find out just how dangerous a patient man can be. The night before Thanksgiving, I sat alone in my study, the dim light of my desk lamp casting long shadows across the walls. I could feel the tension in my shoulders, a knot of frustration and disbelief that refused to loosen. Every memory of Dorothy's smirks, her subtle manipulations, every dismissive word she had ever spoken played in my mind on repeat. It was relentless, an unending loop that gnawed at me. And for the first time, I realized I could not let this go. I thought about all the years I had spent building a life for my family, all the holidays I had prepared, the laughter, the warmth, the countless hours spent ensuring everyone felt at home. And now, a single person had the audacity to erase me, to rewrite the rules of my own house. The injustice of it burned hotter than I could contain. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, reminding myself that I would not give in to despair. Not yet. It was not anger that drove me. It was clarity. A sudden, sharp realization that this was a test, and I had failed once by letting her get under my skin. But failure had a way of teaching lessons the easy way never could. I understood then that if I wanted real satisfaction, real justice, I had to be smarter, more patient, more deliberate than she could ever imagine. I imagined the Thanksgiving table as it had been for decades, plates piled high with turkey, and stuffing, the smell of pumpkin pie in the air, the chatter of family filling the room. And I imagined it again, but with Dorothy in my place, thinking she had one. Her smile would fade, her voice would falter, and her confidence would crumble. I could almost see it, almost hear it, and a surge of anticipation ran through me, cold and electric. The breaking point came when I reflected on my son. David had chosen silence over loyalty. He had allowed himself to be manipulated, and in doing so had abandoned the principle of family respect that I had worked so hard to instill. That realization tightened the coil in my chest. I understood that my revenge could not just be about Dorothy, had to be about reclaiming what was rightfully mine, restoring balance in the home I had built with my own hands. I began pacing, thinking through every interaction Dorothy had orchestrated to belittle me, to control my access to family moments. Each insult, each exclusion, each calculated smile became a detail in a larger strategy. My mind raced, analyzing her patterns, her habits, her predictability. She believed she could control everything, but she had underestimated the one thing she could never predict: me. By midnight, I had formulated the first outlines of a plan. It would require patience, precision, and subtlety. No one could know what I intended until the moment of revelation. I felt a thrill I had not experienced in years, a mixture of anticipation and satisfaction. For the first time since that cruel text arrived, I felt in control again. I knew that Dorothy's arrogance was her weakness. Her certainty that she held all the power blinded her to the fact that she had provoked the one person who never forgot, who never surrendered, who never accepted injustice quietly. I sat back in my chair, letting the darkness envelop me. And for the first time that week, I allowed a small, satisfied smile to creep across my face. I would not just attend Thanksgiving. I would dominate it, on my terms, and she would be powerless to stop me. Because patience, when combined with careful planning, can be more dangerous than rage, and I was about to prove it. The house that Dorothy thought she controlled would soon remind her exactly who owned it, and nothing could stop what was coming next. I woke before sunrise on Thanksgiving morning, my body already alert, my mind sharper than it had been in years. The house was silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy with anticipation. I stood in the kitchen, listening to the low hum of the refrigerator, breathing in the faint smell of coffee grounds and cold air. This was not just another holiday. This was execution day. First step was preparation. I dressed carefully, not in comfort, but in intention. A clean pressed shirt, dark slacks, shoes polished enough to reflect light. I wanted to look calm, grounded, unshakable. Power does not announce itself loudly. It arrives quietly and leaves no room for doubt. I opened my phone and checked the message thread with Dorothy. No new texts. That was expected. She liked control. Silence was her way of reminding me who she believed was in charge. I smiled at the screen. She had no idea that silence was now my weapon too. Second step was positioning. I drove to David's house early, long before guests were supposed to arrive. The sky was still pale, streaked with gray and orange, like it was holding its breath. When I pulled into the driveway, my heart beat steadily, not fast, not slow, focused. Dorothy opened the door. She looked surprised, then irritated, then composed. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Her voice was tight, controlled. "I own this house," I replied, "and I am here to check on my property." The words landed heavier than I expected. Her posture shifted. Just slightly, but I saw it. She stepped aside, reluctantly. Inside, the house smelled of cinnamon and raw turkey. Pots clinked softly in the kitchen. The floor creaked under my shoes like it always had. Familiar, grounding. Third step was exposure. I walked straight to the dining room table where the place cards were laid out. I scanned them slowly. David, Dorothy, friends, extended family, and no card for me. I picked one up, then another. No mistake. I held one between my fingers and said calmly, "You forgot something." Dorothy crossed her arms. "We talked about this." "No," I said. You decided. That is different. Silence filled the room. Thick, pressurized. David stepped in, nervous. Dad, can we talk later? No, I replied. Later is how disrespect becomes normal. Fourth step was public accountability. Guests started arriving. Coats were hung. Voices filled the hallway. Laughter, movement, life. Dorothy was losing her privacy, and with it, her control. When everyone gathered in the living room, I stood. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. I need to clarify something, I said, because silence has allowed a lie to grow. The room quieted. This house is not borrowed. It is not conditional. It was given in good faith, and I was informed I was not welcome in it today. Gasps, shifting, uneasy glances. Dorothy's face went pale. She whispered, "This is not the time." "This is exactly the time," I said. Fifth step was the turning blade. I pulled out my phone and read her message aloud. Every word, slowly, clearly. "We appreciate the house, but Dorothy does not want you at Thanksgiving." The room reacted before she could. David looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You said my father chose not to come," he said. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. Sixth step was consequence. "I am not here to beg," I said. "I am here to correct." I turned to her. "You do not get to remove me from my own family, and you do not get to live in my home while doing it." Her voice finally broke. "You cannot be serious." "I am exact," I replied. Short sentences, clear meaning. No emotion wasted. Seventh step was finality. "You have two choices," I said. "Apologize to this room and acknowledge what you did, or pack your things and leave my property today." The silence was deafening. Every eye was on her, and in that moment, I knew the power had shifted completely. The room felt frozen in time. Every breath was audible. Every movement carried weight. Dorothy stood there, her confidence stripped away, her posture rigid like a statue about to crack. The power she had worn so comfortably was gone. It had vanished the moment the truth left my mouth and landed in the open air for everyone to hear. She looked around, searching for an ally. None came. Faces that once smiled politely at her now held confusion, disappointment, and quiet judgment. David had not moved. He stared at her as if the woman he married had just revealed a stranger beneath the surface. "Say something," I said calmly. Her lips parted. No sound came out. I felt something inside me loosen. A pressure I had been carrying for weeks finally began to lift. This was not rage. This was release. "I never meant for it to sound like that," she finally whispered. The room reacted before I could. "That is exactly how it sounded," David said. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous in its restraint. She turned to him, panic flickering in her eyes. "I was trying to protect our space by removing my father from it," he asked. Silence. The humiliation settled over her slowly, like a shadow creeping across the floor. She was no longer the orchestrator. She was exposed. I stepped forward, not aggressively, but deliberately. "You believed control came from quiet manipulation," I said. "But control comes from truth. And yours has been spoken." Her hands trembled. "I gave you this home because I trusted you," I continued, "not because I owed you. And trust, once broken, does not get repaired with excuses." Tears welled in her eyes. Real tears, not the polished ones she used for sympathy. These were the kind that come when performance collapses and reality finally arrives. "I was wrong," she said softly. It was the first honest thing she had said all day. David exhaled sharply, as if he had been holding his breath for years. "You need to apologize, not to me, to him." She turned to face me. Her shoulders sagged. Her voice cracked. "I am sorry," she said. "I tried to erase you. I was wrong to think I could control that." The room was silent again, not tense, heavy with consequence. I nodded slowly. "That apology matters, but it does not erase what you attempted." She swallowed. "What happens now?" That question was the moment of truth, the climax, the point where power either returned to her or settled fully with me. "You leave today," I said. "Not permanently, but you leave this house. You need to understand what it feels like to be removed from a place you thought was yours." Her face fell. "You will stay elsewhere," I continued. "You will reflect. And if you want to return, it will be with respect, transparency, and accountability." David nodded, slowly. "That is fair." Dorothy looked defeated. But there was something else there, too. Understanding, the kind that comes when illusion dies. She gathered her coat without drama. No arguments, no last attempts at control, just quiet acceptance. As the door closed behind her, the house seemed to breathe again. The air felt lighter, warmer, alive. My chest expanded as if I had been holding in years of silence. I did not smile out of cruelty. I smiled out of validation. I had protected my dignity without losing my composure. Guests slowly began to move again. Conversations restarted. The world resumed. David stepped toward me. His eyes were wet. I should have defended you sooner. You did today, I said. He embraced me. Firm, genuine. The kind of embrace that carries apology, respect, and restoration all at once. That was the real victory, not her humiliation, not her retreat, but the reclaiming of my place. I had not raised my voice. I had not begged. I had not chased revenge. I had stood still, and everything had shifted. The days after that Thanksgiving were quiet in a way that felt almost sacred. The house, once heavy with tension and unspoken battles, felt lighter. The walls no longer seemed to press in on me. It was as if the truth itself had breathed life back into the spaces Dorothy had tried to dominate. I spent that morning walking through each room, touching the furniture, noticing details I had once taken for granted, the way sunlight hit the dining table in the late morning, the soft hum of the heater warming the living room, the familiar creak in the stairs that had always marked home. It was mine. Every inch of it. I do not feel a need for forgiveness. That is not what this story is about. Forgiveness is a gift, and some gifts are better left unoffered when respect is broken deliberately. Dorothy had learned her lesson. I do not doubt that, but her lesson did not come through my mercy. It came through consequence, through the world reflecting back the arrogance she had tried to wield over me. Karma is often quiet, almost invisible, but in her case, it was loud, undeniable, and inescapable. I reflected a lot on my own behavior in the weeks leading up to that moment. I had allowed myself to be manipulated, underestimated, and dismissed. I had let patience turn into tolerance for injustice. That changed when I realized that patience without purpose is weakness, but patience with strategy is strength. I learned that controlling my own emotions, observing without reacting, and waiting for the right moment can be more powerful than any immediate confrontation. There is satisfaction in justice delivered thoughtfully, deliberately, without chaos or anger clouding the outcome. Watching Dorothy face the reality of her actions in front of everyone she hoped to impress was more powerful than any outburst I could have staged. I felt no glee in her humiliation, only recognition that balance had been restored. David and I rebuilt our connection. It was subtle at first, a quiet conversation here, a shared laugh there, but it grew stronger every day. He began to see not only the consequences of Dorothy's choices, but the value of standing firm, of honoring family bonds over convenience and control. That was a lesson I hope he never forgets. Life continued. Holidays came and went. Friends visited. The house remained full of warmth, laughter, and the smells of home-cooked meals. I did not dwell on past slights or rehash old grievances. I let the experience shape me, sharpen my instincts, and reinforce my boundaries. I became more vigilant, yes, but also calmer, more deliberate. I realized that power is not about domination or fear. It is about presence, clarity, and knowing exactly who you are in a world that constantly tests it. I had been tested. I had failed briefly through inaction, but I corrected the course. And that correction reminded everyone around me, family, friends, and even Dorothy, that there are lines you do not cross without consequence. Some people will underestimate you. Some will attempt to rewrite your place in their story without your permission. That is inevitable. What is not inevitable is how you respond. That choice is yours. I will not forget the lessons of that Thanksgiving. I will not forget the calm before the storm, the precision of observation, the careful orchestration of consequence. And I will not forgive when respect is intentionally denied. That is the truth I carry with me. Every year, when the leaves start to turn, when the air becomes crisp, I remember that moment, the clarity, the calm, the restoration of what is mine. It is a reminder that patience, when wielded with purpose, can be more powerful than anger, and that justice, when executed precisely, leaves no room for regret. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button. Share in the comments your own story of justice or revenge, And subscribe for more gripping tales where patience, strategy, and consequences collide to deliver the sweetest form of justice.